host. Thanks for joining us for an awesome range of Kensington single casks. And James, correct me if I'm wrong on this, but I think all of these were done, yeah, all of these have been done since Authentic took on Gordon MacPhail. So these are all casks we've done together in a way. You're muted, by the way. You need to.
I always forget when it starts. That's kind of crazy. Like
Mhm.
some of the casks we bottled now have bottle effect on them.
Oh, Harmony. Yeah, they do have some of them do have bottle effect on them. I
Yeah.
just
Do you
noticed.
remember what the first one was that we did?
Uh, wasn't the Glen Scotia, was it?
No, we did. I think we did
Oh,
one before.
Kleinlich.
Yes, the
The sherried
Clynelish.
Kleinlich.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was spectacular. That was
And
a hell
that
of a
was a
whiskey.
good lesson for me because every retailer in Canada phoned me and was like, "Can I have a sherry Clynelish?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm sure the Urquharts have a whole mountain of them." As it turned out, they did not.
Yeah. I mean, a few years later, we've seen another sherried Kleinlich, but
Yeah, I
for
apologize that I treated that one a little bit differently, but you
well,
still got a lot of it.
no, and you know what? I'm happy. Like, that's how it has to go. Things like that get spread around. We got our taste. I think we have the last six bottles coming in tomorrow for anyone who's curious. So those are there. But yeah, no, we've been really lucky. I don't know if this is still the case, but James, I know you and Richard crashed a tasting I was hosting in Vancouver last fall, um, which was awesome because it was mostly Gordon MacPhail whiskeys in the first place. And it came out that at least at that time, Kensington Wine Market was the biggest single cast customer of Gordon MacPhail's. Now, I'm sure there's caveats to that are like La Maison de Whiskey, which is like Europe, doesn't really count. But
Yeah, I like to think that Andrew Ferguson goes on Whiskey Base and like looks at the La Maison de Whiskey Gordon MacPhail casks and is like, "Mine's better than that one. Mine's better than
yeah,
that one."
well, there have been some. I mean, when you see some of those crop up on Whiskey Fun, I'm like, I
Yeah,
bet mine's better. But I mean, La Maison de Whiskey, great retailer. They've got some real like serious heavy hitters in terms of
yeah.
experts there. So they've bottled some great casks. The
Oh,
point is, I think about 2 years ago, you'd said to me, it's not going to be long until we'll be able to do an exclusively Kensington Wine Market Gordon MacPhail single cast tasting. And here we are tonight.
yeah. I mean, I think the theme here that you'll see is you're in the unique position in that like there's not a lot of retailers that have the ability to have multiple staff that can be on the floor, are familiar with the products, and can hand sell some of these products and speak to their quality. And so, yeah, things like Sherry Kleinlich, people are happy to sell a cask of that because it can just sit on the shelf and it magically disappears.
Yeah.
But I think what's sneaky with your business model is that, I get a list of whatever, like 15 or 20 casks every year that I have access to. And everyone on this call today would look at that list and be like, "Oh man, those three look amazing. I want those three." But without a doubt, usually those three are not the best on the list in terms of flavor. And that's where you step in, right? Is that, you have the ability and, maybe we'll narrow it down a little bit and find something that is maybe more compelling of a story and interesting.
Yeah.
I think
Well,
that's
I
how a lot
think
of these casts ended up in your store.
I think a lot of times, James, it comes down to, and this is where I see our little niche in a very competitive industry. I mean, you're on the agency side, you know who the other retailers are and what they're able to do. You know, we're not the massive volume shop that could buy a cask and, we have hundreds and hundreds of people walking in every day. So that's how you can sell it. Or a chain with dozens to 100 shops around the province where you can spread it out and all of a sudden there you go, that cask sells really quickly. We have to take a little bit different approach to that. And for me, it's like looking for things that maybe are undervalued. Now, there's some things on this list that are definitely like A-list whiskeys, like the Caol Ila that we're going to wrap with at the end, that are
Yeah.
like everyone knows, like, yeah, 22-year-old Caol Ila, no brainer. That's going to be
Yeah.
incredible. But yeah, there's not a lot of people hunting 21-year-old Glenburgie, 17-year-old Miltonduff.
Right?
Um,
You can even imagine someone looking at the list and being like, "Oh, 1988," and then being like, "Oh, Bladnoch."
yeah, which I mean, fair,
Yeah.
but it could be incredible or it could be dire. I mean, more
Well, my
likely it would
whole
be
room smells like 88 Bladnoch right now, so I'm sure that will answer itself in due course.
yeah, more likely it would be dire if it was 1990s Bladnoch, Raymond Armstrong era Bladnoch, but
Yeah.
that's a whole other different story. Well, James,
Okay.
let's kick this off with the
Mhm.
2006
Yeah, and I think this is
Glentauchers
the oldest one here, if I'm correct. This is the
in
least
terms of
recent,
release
oddly.
date.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
the story here, if anyone's wondering, like, did we archive these and save them just for tonight? We definitely did not.
yeah.
And in fact, Gordon MacPhail was cleaning out their storage and they found a case of this, like, that they forgot to ship to us, like 3 years after the fact.
Mhm. Well, and James, as it turns out, I've now discovered 2.5 bottles of it in my office as well. So this might not be the last time people get to try this sold out 2006 Glentalkers. But I think this one, no, you're right. I think this one came in all on its own, and it came in before the Balblair, which
Yes.
I think might have arrived with the Glen Scotia.
Hmm.
I think those two came at the same time. So
Yeah.
this one was, I believe, before those.
Yeah.
Well, let me put her up on screen here. So Glentalkers is one of the three pillars in the Ballantine's blend. Gord MacPhail has been bottling it for a very long time. This is from a refill, is it? Yeah, refill
Yep.
bourbon barrel. Why is that thing not moving on me here? Refill X bourbon barrel, bottled at 58.8%, 16 years. And I think this one, when we brought this in initially, I was a little worried about it. I thought there was a bit of a risk on it. Like the age price thing, I think that worked out well. It was a good age, a good price for the age. But I
Yeah,
was
it
a
was
little
very. Did you have the price on there? I think it was like something
one
like it was
one
under $10 per year.
yeah, it was around 150, 160. But I think my hesitation with it was, could we sell a couple hundred bottles of a fairly spirit-driven 16-year-old whiskey from a distillery that like people aren't excited about?
Hmm.
And in the end, it panned out. They sold reasonably quickly. I think it took about 6 or 7 months, which
Yeah.
for a cask to sell in that amount of time is a pretty good turnover. But yeah, this is an interesting whiskey. It's very honeyed. It's very nutty. When I first nosed it, and I should kind of warn people tonight, my nose and palate are not at their finest, although they are better than they were for the tasting I had to host last night. Um, I'm getting like a tapioca note on here, like something kind of sweet and sticky,
Yeah,
more in
like
that
almost a bit
vanilla.
starchy, a little bit like sweet potato yam. I could see being there
Yeah.
too. Like the milk that's in dandelions, like a little bit of like that kind of note, where it's
Mhm.
like almost a bit touch vegetal.
So, one of the things that I find funny about Glentalkers is that it's not a distillery that has a particularly long fermentation. Like I believe it's only about 60 hours, somewhere
Yes.
in that neighborhood. So it's a whiskey that often takes a fair bit of time to get up to speed, to really start to develop. So again, this isn't a 20-something Glentalkers. It's likely not going to stray into those tropical fruit notes that you start to get from both it as well as its sister distilleries, Miltonduff and Glenburgie, which we're going to try tonight as well. Uh, so this was, yeah, I think when we got this, I was like, oh man, it's a little young. The price is good, but are people going to get this whiskey, or is it just going to be a dead weight? But yeah, it did well. What do we think about the palate, James?
Yeah, it kind of veers more into that like little bit almost melony and I mean obviously there's a lot of ester character in this whiskey. Like it is very
Mhm.
spirit driven. Um I mean I've spent a lot of time in the last month pouring at tables, especially a lot of Compass Box. Like it's very reminiscent of some of the flavors in Orchard House from Compass Box,
Mhm.
for sure. By the
Yeah,
way,
a
do you
real
remember what I think it was Dave from Boutique. He said something about Imperial. It might have been Doug too. I'm sorry, Doug, if I stole this from you.
no.
But this one really stuck to me because he said that, everyone talks about the sister distilleries being Glenburgie and Miltonduff, but historically, if you look at like the design and the spirit character and all those types of things, that the real sister distillery of Glentalkers is Imperial.
Mm.
And man, I can
Both
totally taste that on the palate here. Like it,
both yeah, turn of the 20th century
Yes.
distilleries.
Yeah, kind of
Um,
were stablemates for
mhm,
through several company changes over the years.
mhm,
Um, Both had the like kind of unique like yeah, just some similarities in the distilling regime as well.
yeah.
But we
Again, I
have young
think,
Glentalkers, so it's not as exciting.
yeah. Well, going back to this particular bottling, when I wrote my tasting note for it, I think one of the signature notes for me with Glentalkers is it has this quite nutty kind of granola profile to it, and I do get that tonight. But I'm wondering if it is my palate, and I suspect it might be. But I'm getting like kind of like a toothpaste note to it, which is I'm
I could
not,
see that.
but it's not what I remember from this one. So I'm thinking this has got to be my palate, just utterly ravaged right now.
Well, I think where that note comes from, Andrew, is sometimes when you have these spirit-driven whiskeys, especially if they're matured in bourbon, right in the middle of the palate, sometimes you get like a little spike of like
Hmm.
alcohol, I find.
Hmm.
And it that to me always gives that minty
No.
kind of toothpastey note. And
Now,
then this does that for sure.
now it's more like a cherry kirsch or
Yeah, it's very juicy. I mean, I think that's the character of why this bottle did sell as well as it did is it's not short on flavor, right? Like it's not subtle.
mm-mm,
It maybe doesn't have like layers and layers of complexity, but again, similar to something like Comstock's Orchard House, it's just at least it has the
mhm.
stuffing.
Yeah. There's no rough edges to this. I mean for 58.8, I think it's um the alcohol's integrated quite well.
Yeah.
But to that point about it being kind of big and chunky, I think that was my concern is that if I'm trying to sell this to the kind of consumer who typically likes, your generic space side distillery at 40 or 43%, is this just going to blow their head off? But
Well, yeah, this if this had come in at like even 56, it might not have that like spiky minty character, then it would have been like really quite juicy.
yeah.
But I don't know. I'm not adding water to it because I didn't even bring water today. So it is what it is.
Well, I generally don't like to add it, especially when I know the whiskeys and I know they drink well without them, so I won't be
Yeah.
adding water either. Well, great starting dram there. If anyone else has any comments or tasting notes they want to share, please feel free. Doug's got juicy there, and Brennan's saying such a strong almond sugar cookie note, which I think is a great one. Um,
Well, if Brennan likes the almond sugar cookie note, he better get his nose in whiskey number two,
mm,
which like really smells like an almond shortbread.
all right. Well, that's a good segue. I will pull her up. So next up is the recently arrived Glenburgie 2003. Um, I know some people are probably more excited by the Miltonduff because it's that sort of darker sherry, but this to me was a pretty enticing opportunity because this is juicy, tropical,
Yeah.
decadent, and really approachable. I'll put her up here for
I was
everybody.
gonna say, if someone gave you the keys to Gordon MacPhail's warehouse and said, go and find like the juiciest, fruitiest, fun casks in the warehouse, it would be 20 to 30-year-old Glenburgies and Tomatins.
Hmm.
Because like every single Tomatin and Glenburgie we've got from G&M in this age range
Yeah.
has tasted like this.
Just an absolute fruit bomb.
Like, yeah, just luscious.
So, 2003 vintage, 21 years, first fill ex bourbon barrel, bottled at 54.5. And I think the other thing that's interesting to point out on this one is the low out turn.
Yeah.
Just 143 or 46 bottles. Someone can
Which
check
we
the,
know what that magic is, oxidation.
we do. And
Yeah.
as I say, someone can check the bingo square there for Andrew squinting at the screen, who's not wearing his glasses tonight. I'm pretty sure that that one is still on the cards. Yeah, James, where do you get on the nose here?
Yeah, again, I think when Brennan threw out that note of almond paste, like I definitely get that. Almost that yeah, what's the almond paste that's used in baking? Someone's gonna put it in the chat.
Oh, you
Like
don't
sometimes you get it inside of an almond
like
croissant.
marzipan?
Marzipan, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely get that on the nose. A little bit, it's very like peachy. Like I
Hmm.
sometimes think like throughout the life of the whiskey, we talk about the tropical notes on the palate, but you kind of go from like citrus in youth, and sometimes then it goes through like a peachy apricot phase, and then it eventually kind of turns over to more of that mango
Hmm.
papaya passion fruit. This to
Yeah.
me is kind of like in that peachy apricot.
It is peachy. Like it's kind of got like a peach apricot yogurt note and
Yeah.
the um French crepes dusted with powdered sugar, a little bit of citrus on top. Uh Sammy's saying chasing 20-ish year Glenburgie. This is our third actually as a store 20 plus year old
Yeah.
Glenburgie. We were
Well, and
lucky
this
to
smells very similar to the secret, what's the secret malts of Scotland, maybe 21-year-old Glenburgie?
we had a 21 and a 22. They were
Right.
they were pretty similar to each other.
Yeah.
But they were both bangers, great value, just really,
Yes.
really drinkable.
Yeah, what I remember about them that I get in this too is like you get obviously this is an active bourbon barrel and you do get a lot of like coconut cream and all that, all those types of notes. But the
Hmm.
fruit is like equal to it. And that to me is what makes this like such a joy to drink is that, you know, those
Yeah.
those pastry bourbon notes and the fruit are fighting tooth and nail.
Yeah, silky on the palate, even with my palate being pretty rough tonight.
Well, it's a nice
And
drinking strength.
oh yeah, and it reminds me of like sorbet, like a lemon sorbet in between meals. Just tons of fruit notes. My original tasting note, everything from orange creamsicle, mango rice pudding from the Tibetan restaurant, just a few blocks from here, and yeah, creamed honey, clotted cream. Like
Yeah.
it's lush, sweet, fruity, and just nice toasty level too.
Another nice touch is, on the palate, like the flavors kind of build and you kind of get like several waves. Like some of those fruity creamy notes come in like almost after you swallow, which is lovely.
Hmm. Yeah, nice finish, elegant, very drinkable. So yeah, James, maybe we should elaborate a little bit on that oxidative element to this because it's true of both this whiskey and then the next one, which is even more oxidized. And we'll get to that when we get there.
And
But
not something that we see from a lot of Gordon MacPhail single
no.
casks. In fact, usually the opposite is true, right? Like sometimes these things come in and, on the notes it says it's a 28-year-old hogshead and it still has like 290 bottles in it and it's 58%. Like that's a
Hmm.
common scenario in Gordon and MacPhail storage, I feel like.
Hmm.
So to have like low proof and low fill, like clearly a bit of a leaker got through.
Yeah, but I mean that's the curiosity with I think both of these. They're both still mid 50s.
Yeah.
And you'd expect, I would say, bare minimum, even after 20 years, you'd expect to get at least 180 bottles out of a bourbon barrel. Like it's very rare that you don't see a volume like that, and often, closer to 200. And yet, this is like less than 150. So I mean, it's lost at least a quarter of the volume of the cask, uh,
Yeah.
possibly more. And then that's just giving room for air to get in there for that like oxidation to take place in the cask and kind of develop some of those fruitier flavors.
Yeah. Yeah, to me the difference you notice on these oxidative ones is, a little bit more of a savory feel and the fruit just like comes forward more and you get a little bit less of the wood character.
Hmm. Even though this is like first fill bourbon and quite
Yeah.
sweet and honeyed from the cask profile here. Uh, so yeah, Glenburgie Distillery, located actually fairly close to the coast. I think it's just north of Elgin.
Well,
Um,
yeah, it's right beside Ben Romick.
yeah, originally founded as Kinflat Distillery back in 1829.
Jeez.
Um, and got another guest joining us here. And it became, as part of Hiram Walker, Guterman Worts for quite a while. It had its Loman Still era, and it was completely rebuilt in 2004. So
Yeah.
relatively speaking, a fairly modern distillery. Um, but
Yeah,
yeah.
I have not been there since. I mean, you drive past it basically when you go down the highway there and the Ben Romick is a little bit more obvious, but there's
Mhm.
more signs for Glenburgie.
Well, probably because there's more trucks turning in there.
Yeah.
So the trucks need to know where to go, the malt lorries.
Yeah,
But
you probably remember there was a 15-year-old Glentauchers in Glenburgie that came through the market that I guess that's Corby, right? That they brought in
oh,
briefly,
you
but I
mean
haven't
the
seen
yeah,
them in a
the
while.
trio, the Miltonduff,
Yeah, they brought all three.
Glenburgie, Glentalkers 15s.
Those are part of a larger range. I've seen people post on social media that they'll go and visit Glenburgie, and you can buy like an 18 and a 23 and like all in that same packaging.
Yeah. I hope they're better than the 15s because the 15s were pretty substandard, I think it has to be said.
Yeah, I probably wouldn't bet hard on them being a big step up.
Yeah. I'm trying to
They're
remember
probably
which
more
one
expensive.
what's that?
They're probably more expensive.
Well, yeah, you definitely want to take advantage of that. I'm trying to remember. I did come across this recently, James. It's one of those three distilleries, Glenburgie, Glentalkers, or Miltonduff, that is in the process of becoming the third largest distillery in Scotland.
That it's Miltonduff,
It's
but
Miltonduff.
I think that's
Yeah.
been put on hold. Yeah.
Because they were going to make it almost as big as Glenfiddich and
Yeah, someone thought that we
Glenlivet.
needed 20 million liters a year of Miltonduff, which, okay.
Probably not. All right, shall we move on to the Bladnoch, James, the
Yeah, of
other
course.
oxidized cask in this lineup?
Yeah, this is always a treat.
Yeah. So this, along with one of the other whiskeys in the lineup tonight, is one of the whiskeys that I famously said, yeah, you can send the sample, but we'll never bottle that. And part of it, it wasn't so much that it was Bladnoch. It was just, it was 33-year-old Bladnoch from 1980, early or the late 80s rather. I knew it was not going to be inexpensive. I mean, the only reason I even considered it was because there was going to be a very low outturn, like a shockingly low outturn. And I'll put it up on screen here. What was it, 54 bottles?
Something like that.
Yeah. And
Yeah, this is something that we haven't had as much lately. There was kind of a period of time during COVID where I know they sometimes had some logistics issues, and I think they had some casks that kind of got away from them in terms of storage and management.
mhm.
And I mean, some of the really old stuff that they tried to rescue obviously came as the archive series, which that Glenburgie obviously is still around. But yeah, this was an email I got from Richard one day saying like, "Hey, I've got these four short fill casks. Like, do you know anyone?" But they were all over 30 years old. And
Mhm.
yeah, of course, that Linkwood 1991 went through the market.
Mhm.
That was sherried, and then this one I think was the one that you kind of fell in love with and had a little bit more of a reasonable fill.
Yeah. Well, and the opportunity was great, but at the same time, I'm just thinking like, and it's true, it's taken a while. Like it's going to take a while to sell through 50 odd bottles of $1,400 a bottle whiskey, but it was one of those things where once we tried it, I kind of had to find a way to make it work because you don't see a lot of whiskeys with this profile. There are some gorgeous Bladnochs out there, but there's a lot of, we started talking about earlier, there's a lot of really bad Bladnochs out there too, and really uninteresting, not exciting whiskeys. This is from the Bell's era, I believe, when the distillery was still owned by Bell's. I believe at that time they had probably fair to say a better production regime than they did under Raymond Armstrong when he bought it in 1994. But it was, yeah, I think probably, it was on the fringes of Scotland. It's despite being, as the crow flies, not that far from Glasgow. It's about a 3-hour drive. It's truly in the middle of nowhere, this distillery. And I think they were kind of just left to do their own thing and were producing still a fairly old school style spirit at this point in time.
Yeah, I mean, this is just really kind of goes into another realm. I probably, if I tried this blind, I would think it was even much older than 33 years, perhaps,
Hmm.
because it
Well,
really goes into those really kind of exotic honeys and really wild tropical fruits, and
yeah.
it has a little bit of antique character, which
Hmm.
often I wouldn't expect at 30.
Yeah. Yeah. A little bit of that Vellicore
Yeah, yeah, it really
profile.
does.
one of the notes that I know is in here, I can't get it right now. My nose is just not that sensitive, is there's a little bit of lavender on this one, like a faint hint of like Parma violet. And
Yeah.
I absolutely love that note in this whiskey. I love it in Bowmore too. I'll admit I'm one of those people that doesn't
Yeah.
mind those
You're preaching the
floral
converted.
perfumed Bowmores. But that
Yeah.
was one of the things that drew me to this was that kind of nostalgic note that reminded me of like early 80s Bowmore.
Yeah. Okay. So when you think about like the spectrum of floral notes that you typically get, like in wine, it's quite wide, obviously, and you might go a lot farther than saying like violets or lavender.
Hmm.
But in whiskey, it's not very often that I'd say like, oh, this smells like lilac or
No.
geranium or whatever. Like it tends to be a narrower band.
Well,
But this has like a little bit more of an unusual kind of floral component to it
mhm.
that I've not seen in a lot of whiskeys over the years.
Yeah. Ronnie Cox of former Glenrothes fame, Berry Brothers as well, would disagree with you on that because he believes geraniums along with oranges were the two notes that you got from Glenrothes. Those were the two signature notes from them. You could do a tasting with him and he'd be like, "What do you taste?" And you'd be like, "I taste these three things." He'd be like, "Nope, it's oranges and geraniums." Like, okay, Ronnie.
All right.
Um, he was quite adamant about it, but the lavender is definitely there on the palate. I
Yeah,
mean,
it is for
this is
sure.
tropical. There's this agave nectar sweetness to it,
Yeah.
and that nice sort of sweet lavender.
Very, very honeyed. I know down the street, if anyone knows where I live in Cloverdale, BC, and there's a lot of honey produced there. And actually, down the
Mm.
street from me is a place called the Honeybee Center. It's basically
Oh,
like elementary school kids roll through there and taste little honey candies and see bees and stuff. But you can go in there and they'll often have like it's really nerdy. They'll have like 20 or 30 different pots of honey open and you can
oh,
taste them on toothpicks.
that sounds delightful. I'm gonna
It's
have to
kind of
come.
fun.
James, I've been missing it. I used to be able to get honeycomb from my
Oh,
local
wow.
cheesemonger. Do they sell honeycomb there?
They do.
Ooh,
They do.
a little bit of honeycomb on blue cheese. It's kind of hard to beat that.
Yeah. I mean, there is a little bit of cheesiness here, but it's less than I remember.
Hmm.
But yeah, I don't have a lot of bad things to say about this.
Hmm. Now, uh, we could discuss whether people will see Bladnochs like this again in the future, and I think the likelihood is probably not. The way they're running the distillery now, the type of casks they're filling, their production regime, I think it's fair to say they're creating a completely different style of spirit
Well,
um,
this
from
is the
this.
irony, Andrew, is like how many distilleries have been on one of these tastings and been like, yeah, we're really trying to get leaky casks and make sure that they oxidize. Like
Well,
I've
I,
never heard anyone say that.
ironically, and Doug could probably provide more color on this than I can. There had been rumors of a certain distillery I won't name that maybe we just tasted, supplying people casks of inferior oak quality and thickness that are breaking and or leaking. So, but probably not going to have the same effect on the spirit as a tired old
Yeah,
refill Barry Hoggy would.
yeah. I know Angus talked about doing that at Kythe that they would that some of the casts they would like purposely leave half full for extended periods.
Yeah. Well, God bless him. I hope the financing to get through the next 20 years
Hopefully he
of
has infinite wood budget.
such creative ideas continues because it's a tough whiskey business out there right now if
I
you're a new
know. Can't you just
distiller.
picture like someone else in his like finance team that's actually paying for that being like, shut up.
Yeah.
There's
Well,
no way we could do
I
that.
believe that's Aaron Chan. I
Yeah,
believe
yeah,
that's the
exactly.
the guy whose deep pockets are funding these creative ideas of Angus and Johnny's. But wish them the best. When people have that kind of passion and have such a romanticized view of what whiskey is and what it should be and what they want to do with it, you can't help but want to wish the best for them. But man, it's
Hmm.
yeah, tough market out there for that. Well, Bladnoch was lovely. I should note there are, I believe, 7 bottles of that left. So that's what we're down to. and then it's gone forever. 7 bottles of the Bladnoch 1988. And I think it's fair to say this will probably be the last time you see it in a tasting because given there's only 7 left, I'm not planning to open any more of it. But
Well, it's a good send off.
yeah, it is indeed a good send off. All right, Miltonduff, James. I have a vague
Yeah.
recollection then when we were looking at the casks. I mean, I've
Well,
been asking for a Miltonduff for a
so
while.
yeah, I have a sneaking suspicion that this might have been kind of stolen potentially from somebody else.
Ooh.
Because you're right, every year when I get the samples, I always said like if there's a Miltonduff in one of the, because what if anyone wants to kind of like know the process how this works, when they in the lab they go through all the casts obviously like once or twice a year, and actually it's happening right as we speak, where they'll go through and they'll basically pull out I think like about 100 that they kind of think are a pool of casts that they want to release this year. And some of them they'll say, okay, these are suitable for like regular connoisseur's choice bottlings. And then some of them they'll say, you know what, these ones maybe are a little bit more distinct. They could be well served as like bespoke one-off casks. So that list then gets split into different markets. So, the people in France get a list, people in UK get a list, and then North America gets its own list. And yeah, in the early years, we would only see like 4 or 5 of the items on that list for North America, and Richard would go and try to sell them in the US.
Hmm.
And he would sell like 5 or 6 of them all at once to K&L wine merchants for like not always great pricing, but I digress.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess business is business, and
Sure.
James, it's not as though there's not some gentle pushing on pricing from this end either. I mean,
Yeah.
we're always trying to fight the good fight here too.
Yep. Yeah, we try to do it fairly, of course, but
Yeah.
yeah. Anyways, yeah, we don't somehow over 5 years we never saw Miltonduff, and we always said like, yeah, we'd love to see one because there's obviously been a lot of great CC bottling Miltonduffs from G&M over the
Hmm.
years, and when you think about like
Well,
the quality of the sherry that Gordon MacPhail uses, like that's the best vehicle for Miltonduff,
yeah. Well,
and they're
before
not, they don't. I don't think they fill a lot of Miltonduff into ex-bourbon, so
no. Well, before we go more about that, because there is more about that I have to say, I'll just quickly share this. This 17-year-old first fill ex sherry hogshead, 56.9% originally distilled in 2007, arrived just a couple weeks ago. So this is brand spanking new, along with that Glenburgie. James, like we don't actually see a ton of Miltonduff from independent bottlers anymore. We used to see a fair bit of older refill cask Miltonduff, which is what I always really loved, were those like 20 to 30-year-old refill cask, very tropical, waxy,
yeah.
Miltonduffs. But the sherried ones, no one other than Gordon MacPhail, I think, really has that unless they've been finishing. But that goes back to how these came about. This is not Miltonduff acquired from the distillery by Gordon MacPhail in cask. This is their approach to independent ballings, which is to marry the spirit with the wood. So they're intentionally putting Miltonduff in sherry because they feel that the spirit is better suited to that type of wood than ex-bourbon.
Yeah, there must have been people at Miltonduff Distillery or adjacent that saw like these brand new expensive first fill sherry casks being filled at Miltonduff and being like, what are these guys doing?
Yeah.
Like it doesn't, in different eras of whiskey, it just would make no sense.
Um, it has also, I think it was one of the later um, distillery labels. So, and partly because I don't know if you've ever seen it, James, but it's kind
Yeah,
of
the green
weird.
label with the stripe. Yeah,
Yeah, it's green.
yeah.
And I think part of that
That's
is
still
because,
available to us, by the way.
oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, with an age statement, or is it just the young ones?
I don't know. We'll see what's on the list this year.
All right, well, we'll see what's on the list.
Yeah.
But yeah, we used to see these young sherried Miltonduffs going back about 10 years from Gordon MacPhail in the distillery label bottlings. We've not seen, a ton of stuff lately, even bottled stock. Like there's been the odd, like whatever, late 80s or early 90s cast that's come through, but like this isn't a whiskey that you've seen a ton of.
No. No, and I don't know why, because certainly they must have a fair bit of Miltonduff in their
Mhm.
warehouse.
Well, maybe certain things are more likely to go to certain markets.
Yeah. Yeah,
So,
that's probably true. Yeah.
this to me had those classic sherry notes like your dried dark fruits, chocolate, leather, tobacco,
Yeah.
a little bit of Christmas cake, and then like some tropical tones just starting to poke through that heavy blanket of sherry.
Yeah, I mean there's a lot of kind of savory undertones, like even a little bit of, a little bit of charred meat, maybe a little
Mhm.
bit of like that kind of nut skin kind of character. Like it's a little bit earthy.
Mhm. Glossette raisins on there. Tonight I'm getting more of a like a mincemeat note from it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean if you have like a bridge mix and you like open the bag and you like smell like the nuts and the dried fruit, like it totally has that smell with the
Mhm.
chocolate.
Wow. Yeah, it's funny not to dwell on this, but my palate, things are hitting my palate in an unusual way tonight. And I'm finding this just really tangy, like very tangy fruit.
Yeah,
Um,
wow. It's big. I mean, this is a character to me of Miltonduff. It's funny, like a lot of the other distilleries that make spirit that is like big and chewy and heavy and oily kind of have like a reputation for that, but no one ever includes Miltonduff in that conversation for some reason.
yeah,
But I mean, this is heavy stuff.
it is heavy, but it's not quite as dirty, I think, as some of those other ones.
That's a
Like,
good point. Like it's fairly clean.
yeah, a lot of those other ones will stray into like really dry, meaty tones and
Mhm.
like very leathery or even like faintly sulfury spirit. And this is
I'm gonna
not
guess that there are casks that fit that description from Miltonduff in the G&M warehouses.
very well could be. But yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I
but
don't really get a lot of sulfury tones at all.
no, quite drinkable. Yeah. Oh,
Yeah, it's just like big and it just like kind of explodes.
I think for me, one of the other things that I really liked about this, and it was in my comment on it, was that this is kind of straddling the line between being a sherry bomb
Yeah.
and being a sherried whiskey that still has a lot of complexity to it.
Yes.
And that because of that, it kind of would appeal to a broader audience. It would appeal to people that like big sherry, but it
Hmm.
would also appeal to people that don't want just a dumpy sherried whiskey. They want something with a little bit more character.
Yeah, I can see that. I was gonna say, like, what would you guess if you were poured this blind? Because I know exactly what I would guess.
I gotta
Like
have a
probably
new
Glen
sip.
Farkless.
Well, yeah. There's it's missing that little direct fire kind of je ne sais
Yeah, but
quoi.
it has a little bit of that though,
Hmm. But is that more the sherry, like just the
yeah,
profile of the sherry, as
than the
opposed to the
spirit.
distillate? But yeah, I I could see that. I could see that pour that blind and assume it's a 2000s vintage like family cask of some sort.
Totally. Like it has that like pop and that like weight that I always
Hmm.
associate with Glen Farkless.
But it also makes you think like maybe there's something to do with the sherry from that period because uh a
Yeah.
lot of those early Glenfarclas, like the 2000s family casks, have this kind of dark, rich, but not over the top. Like they can be really dark sherry, but without being completely over the top sherried whiskeys.
Right. Yeah, which I mean, I guess that's a good way to describe this. Like it's pretty heavily shared, but you're right. It's not like,
Hmm.
it's not like some of those early spay malts we had or,
No. Or a
the Glen
wet fill
Talkers that's
whiskey
coming
from
up.
the west coast of Canada that's only at 2 years old. Not going to name any names.
Oh, I can't wait for you to try that 6-year-old Tour PX cask.
It's sitting in my office
Right, right.
because we poured it for that event just before Victoria.
Oh man.
Uh, I'll have to give it a try. Maybe that'll be my cold medicine tomorrow morning. Is
Oh
I'll
my
have a dram of
gosh.
that, see how that goes over. All right. Are we
Yeah,
ready to go on to the Balblair?
let's do it.
So this one's been gone for a wee while now. As we were
Are you a
saying
little bit
before,
surprised of the order here?
Well, this was Evan's order, and we chose not to
I know. I
alter it
just
because
wanted to give you a chance to throw Evan under the bus since he's not here.
well, is that's got to be on the bingo square, right?
Yeah.
Like that's not a prompt. I'm pretty sure that's got to be a square. Uh, yeah, this came in 25-year-old. Was a great price at the time. I really should archive this. 440, 25-year-old Balblair refill ex bourbon barrel. And yeah, this was an interesting one because I think all the Balblair we'd been looking at previously from Gordon MacPhail had been sherried. And there'd been a lot of really good mid-90s sherried Balblair. And this one was a bit of an oddity. I think before we got the sample, I was a little disappointed, like, oh, would have rather had a sherried Balblair because that's what everybody knows. But yeah.
Um,
Or is this the, oh, I put the wrong one on the screen. This is sherry. Did I think I've got the wrong one. Hold on a second.
well, because there was another 97 Balblair.
I'm pulling this up from the back end of our website. Just give me a second here. KWM Cask archived.
I
Hold
mean, from
on.
flavor memory, this is your 97 Balblair. I'm pretty
Oh
sure.
no, it is, but this is why I shared the wrong one. This is a refill sherry hogshead. It's 24 years, not 25, and the price was under 400 bucks. All those things were kind of throwing me for a loop here. Sorry, this is the correct whiskey here, the one that's archived on our site that you can't search anymore.
Yes.
So sorry about that,
That
everyone.
makes sense.
Yeah, it does make more sense because the color and even the nose for a man with very little nose tonight was not matching up. Yeah, 24 years, refill sherry hogshead, 58.3%, nearly a quarter of a century old when we got it. All right, so yeah, sorry for that little bit of confusion there.
Oh man, this show's like fruitier than I remember.
Well, and this is that really old school style of sherry. Um,
Yeah, it really has a little bit of almost like pithy fruit, like the like grapefruit, like the white part of the grapefruit, the white part of the orange. Has kind of an unusual like bitterness to it too.
mhm,
Like a yeah, I know in wine like there's a tasting note that you sometimes hear called phenolic bitterness, where like it's almost like a textural bitter.
mhm. So my original tasting note going way back when talks about sticky toffee pudding, stewed prunes, treacle sauce, uh, pumpkin spices. I don't know if anyone's getting that tonight. And I think made me think of when my daughter was Chloe was at home and baking because she'd often put pumpkin spice on things.
I mean, that is delicious.
Yeah,
This one disappeared from the store pretty fast.
it did. It was doing well on its own. But this was also during those crazy post-COVID years, James,
I know.
when people from across the ocean would appear in your shop and would leave with a vehicle full of boxes of booze. Um, and
That doesn't still happen.
no, I think some of that might still happen, but not in the way that it did back then.
Yeah,
And they'd usually be looking for Macallan and they'd be like, look, I've got something that's going to taste like that, and it's going to be a tenth the price.
yeah.
And occasionally they'd be like, okay, great. How much do you have? And then like you'd regret telling them how much you had because they would try to take all of it. So, but yeah, this one did not last that long.
Well, it's funny you say that because there are some elements here that I could see this passing as a spay malt.
Hmm. Yeah.
Like it has that weight and that presence.
Well, Balblair Distillery, which I know it's not as well known. It kind of had its moment in the sun back when it was doing those vintages and you could buy great old vintages of Balblair for very reasonable prices. Many of them, the older ones, actually from Sherry as well.
Oh yeah.
Um,
Yeah, that 1983, I remember the first batch, it was like,
well,
wasn't it
even
like $250?
yeah, but there was even like a 90. I thought there was like a 93 as well. That was also pretty bloody gorgeous.
Yeah.
Um, and again, very reasonably priced at a point where the whiskey industry was really starting to kind of go crazy.
Yeah.
But it's a whiskey that I think does well in sherry. It does well with a bit of time. You know, it's got that slightly meaty, sulfury profile that like holds up well to sherry cask maturation. I think it also means that it doesn't. It's also a whiskey that doesn't generally drink well young. Like the
Yeah.
12-year-old, I think probably struggles for that reason. But yeah, I will say the best Balblairs I've ever had, though, have all been Gordon MacPhail Balblairs. Some of those vintages, like the 83 and some of those 90s
Well,
ones,
and the 93 that's in market now
yeah,
is pretty
those Gordon
spectacular
MacPhail
stuff.
Balblairs were spectacular. There was a
Yeah.
period back in the old days, James, the old cask strength range, when we'd get these 18, 19-year-old sherry cask Balblairs from 95, and they were
Yeah.
spectacular. And they
Yeah. In
were,
fact, I think I have one on the shelf, right? They came in that brown tube.
yeah, the brown
Yeah, I
tube.
think I've got one. Yeah. Yeah. This guy. Right?
Yeah. And they were under 200 bucks, great value, good sherry. They were probably a little expensive at the time for what they were, but nowadays
Yes.
they would be an absolute steal.
Yeah, in fact, when we took over in 2020, I remember there was a lot of this kind of stuff sitting around. It was quite dark.
Hmm.
Like there was like quite a lot of it out there, like in places like Co-op, and like you could just go and buy it and there was like 10 bottles on the shelf for like $200. And then it all kind of disappeared.
Well, we won't we, we won't talk about how for a long time that was a place I would go to find stuff I'd been out of for years that I
I
knew
know.
people
I
still
wouldn't have
wanted.
said anything if Harmony wasn't on this. Because
Well,
Harmony was like my dealer for old G&M bottles for like about 18 months.
yeah. Well, James, my funny story involves uh, around the time just before they opened up World of Whiskey, which obviously she was at for a number of years. And I was going around co-op stores all around the city, cleaning them out of old back vintages of Octomore, the old Black Bull 40-year batch one blend that was like dirt cheap, that was just absolutely stunning that they had no idea what it was. It had been sitting on the shelf for a decade. They hadn't raised the price. And I would go in, put a baseball cap on and, talk my way into a 10% discount, which was about the best they would ever do. And I'd be thrilled because I'd
That's
have
even for
this,
agents.
what's that?
Even for agents.
Yeah. But it was, I mean, there was cool stuff there. But on one of those trips, I was at the one in Quarry Park. And the woman there's like, whoa, you're really into your whiskey. And I'm like, yeah, I guess you could say that. And she said, oh, you'll be excited to know we're opening a dedicated whiskey shop in downtown. I was like, oh, tell me more. She said, yeah, we're opening a whiskey shop to compete with Kensington Wine Market. Anyway, I didn't tell her who I was. I did think it was hilarious that this chain that already had 20 shops needed to open up a whiskey shop to better compete with me. But anyway, what are you going to do? That was a bit of a funny interaction.
That's great.
Yeah. Uh,
By the way, what do you think of the Inverhouse range? Like when they did 12, 15, 18, of all the rebrands they did, of course the Pulteney one I think stung because everyone loved the 17 and 21.
mhm.
But the Balblair one felt the worst, didn't it?
Yeah, I think they killed the brand, to be totally
Yeah.
honest.
Like the Speyburns felt like a new exciting range.
Yeah. Even though the whiskeys are like, especially the 12 to 15 are so-so, like they're not really interesting until you get to the 18.
Yeah.
But I think those Balblair vintages were starting, people were finally starting to catch on to them. They were finally starting to like really buy into them, and then they shifted gears.
Yeah.
And that range, that 12, 15, 18, 25, other than that the 25 is way too expensive. Uh, I think the 15, the 18, and the 25 are all good whiskeys,
Yeah.
but the rebranding killed the brand. Like it set them back massively.
Yeah. I know. Well, look, that was a lot of the appeal of this cask, obviously, is like you could put it right beside the OB 25 and you were like half the price
Yeah, if that.
and just more compelling profile.
Yeah.
But you like all the classic Balblair character is stuffed in here.
Mhm. Doug is reminding everyone that Evan is that in addition to Evan, Speyburn is also history's greatest monster. So um,
Andrew, do you ever feel like you could spend a night sharing drams with Doug and potentially spend the entire night talking about just Speyburn?
maybe
It's on the range of outcomes. Okay.
they re
That's Doug's contribution to Scotland's worst distilleries tasting.
I think he's leaning
I know
heavily
this about
into it.
Doug.
Uh, so I will say that they've done a good job of built like they built a visitor center there because I mean it's right in the
Oh,
heart
it's
of the
beautiful.
Speyside, and
You always see the little smoke when you're like coming down towards
yeah,
Glen
it's
Grant and
like
like it's coming out of the valley. It's
there's
lovely.
the pagoda just down in the
Yeah,
valley that you drive past. And for years, I always wondered what distillery is that? And someone probably told me, and I think this is a reflection of Speyburns' esteem in the whiskey world, and probably was told 3 or 4 times and forgot. But they actually have one thing there that's worth visiting. It's their drum maltings that they've rebuilt. And
hmm,
well, to be honest, they didn't rebuild, they just cleaned it up. When it shut down, I believe in the 60s or 70s, they just walked away from it. All the tools were left where they were. They locked the doors. And so when they went through their silent season a couple years ago, they went in, they cleaned it up, they left all the tools, even the bag that collected the chits from the dresser that strips those roots off the barley is still there, half full of chits. It was never taken away. So you can actually walk through a drum maltings
that's
in
cool.
in a distillery, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
You don't get to see that in many other places.
No, I'm really looking forward to when there's AI robots doing the floor maltings for us in like 10 years,
Tesla robots.
right? Just like walking around turning barley. I mean, that sounds ridiculous, but I feel like that's actually probably going to happen.
Something tells me the Scottish people will not take kindly to, especially Tesla robots
Can
turning
you
barley
imagine like
floors.
some of the old guard from the Scotch world like coming face to face with a Tesla robot on a malt floor?
I hope they would kill it with a malt shield. I mean, I guess kill it's the wrong word. Deable it, disable it, defunction it. I don't know. Is
Yeah.
it really killing it?
Brennan, that 44-year-old Speyburn is still available from G&M. I can order it today.
Oh, well, let's talk
But
about that.
the problem is that I had to fill the order with 78 Ben Rinnes for Andrew's upcoming tasting.
The one that we haven't, the one that we haven't actually.
That product's on the water now, Andrew.
All right.
There's literally Othrusk specifically requested by Andrew Ferguson coming on a boat.
Well, all right, James. We'll have to chat. I think we're looking at May for a Scotland's worst distilleries tasting. I guess it's finally going to come to fruition. So we're back to Glentauchers.
Yeah, me neither, Brennan.
So this
Woo.
is one of the ones we've still got. It came in with our gorgeous Ardmore 1997, which I really would have loved to have poured for this tasting because I that Ardmore 97 is still one of my favorite KWM
Oh
casks.
no.
And probably I think I said several times that it was my favorite Ardmore ever. Um, but this Glentalkers was quite a counterpoint to it because it was more of a modern style sherry to the old school style sherry of that Ardmore. But 2000 vintage, 23 years, first fill sherry hogshead,
Oh man.
55.8%. And this one's had its fans, but this was also a much bigger outturn than that Ardmore. The Ardmore had a much smaller outturn than this particular.
Yeah. Man, this smells so delicious. I mean, anyone who likes like malted chocolate,
Mhm.
um, Tootsie Rolls, right? It smells a lot like Tootsie Rolls to me.
Yeah. Well, it's that dumpy style of sherry. It's really kind of thick and almost goopy, but very, very well integrated.
Yeah, I'm
Now,
sure you've heard the word dank. It applies
yeah.
to this.
Well, we I remember asking Stephen Rankin about this because there was something that I was always very curious about this whiskey. I'm going to pop it up on screen here again. And James, I think we learned something. I don't know if Stephen was supposed to tell us or not, but the cask number here, which has 8 digits to it,
Oh yeah. Yeah, you know what that means, right?
it's a finish.
Yeah, so the irony is that like it can be something to look for, and there's been a lot of them that have come to market, but often if they do have two casks that are low fill, that are from refill, they
Hmm.
might combine them into one of these first fill. And that's when you see those long numbers.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Well, I think you can even decode it a little bit,
Yes.
because the last 4 digits, I'm guessing, is the year. So they
Yeah.
probably switched this over to sherry in 2001.
Yeah.
And then the cast number 1660 might have been the original cast number that it was matured in.
Hmm.
So I mean, it's a finish, but it's a very long-term finish. Like it spent all but a year or two of its life in that final sherry cask.
Yeah, and it doesn't really feel like it just got like splashed for like
Mm.
2 or 3 years in, like a Miguel Martin cask, which obviously there's lots of those whiskeys out there. Like this has more of that kind of savory, kind of more evolved depth to it than that.
Mhm.
Like it goes into some other more oxidative notes. Man, this is wonderful. I don't, I don't know if you remember, like you probably encountered this in your early days with the store, Andrew, but there was a period of time where a lot of Bordeaux, like the red wine, there was kind of this obsession with getting like really big point scores from critics. And a lot of the wines they would quite literally mature them in 200% new oak. So they would ferment them in a new barrel and then age them in a second new barrel. And there's something about this that reminds me of that, like with the wood.
Just that, like, you've got a fresh cask and then you put into another fresh cask
Yeah.
just to kick it up, just to give it a little bit of
And
life.
it's like a lot of wood, but a lot of those wines, it was hard to get over all the wood. But then at the same time, if you're honest with yourself, you're kind of like, you know what, that's actually kind of like really delicious,
Hmm.
even though it was
Well,
kind of ostentatious and unnecessary.
but James, I mean, going back to the wine worlds, like how often are people in that not just the industry, but aficionados of it, willing to put up with something that's not great just because it's traditional and authentic? I mean, and I'm
Yeah,
sure
that's
there's an element of that in whiskey as well too. And a lot of times you have to admit that like maybe you don't love how they got from A to B, but B is pretty damn good. And I suppose in a way that sums up Apothic for like there's a reason why people like to drink it. It's not great wine, but they're giving the people what they want.
yeah. Yeah, and like, you have different types of people in this business. Like you have the people that are like dreamers and are like, want to go and get the weirdest cast they can and just experiment and but then there's other people that are like, "Hey, we could just do this and like make a whole bunch of money." And I mean, it's
So
yeah, it's hard to throw too much shade on those people at the end of the day if they get
no,
away with it.
it's true. Anyway, well, we were talking about that earlier on tonight about the difference between Glenallachie and a little bit Glenallachie and Ben Romick. Like Ben Romick is to me, and James, you can't say this because you're in a compromised position. I will say it because I believe it. But like Glenallachie is like probably the hottest distillery in Scotland right now in like the best whiskey shops. Like everybody wants it. You've said it yourself. Like everybody wants the 12, the 15, and like it's one of the few things that's doing really well. But I still think Ben Romick is a far more interesting whiskey.
Yeah.
But the thing is that Ben Romick isn't being made for mass appeal. It's
Hmm.
being made to be an authentic, uh, true to itself spirit. And I think that's the reality of the industry is you can be one or the other, but you can't really be both.
Yeah, no, the true fair fight will be one day when we have, some sort of 18 or 21-year-old Meikle tour that we can put side by side.
Yeah.
That's the true
Yeah.
test.
Okay. The Hansel of whiskey. That Hansel's so hot right now. Uh, one more and then speed round. And Doug Page will join us for the speed round to take the place of my palate, which is not the best right now. But James, Caol Ila, we've had some great Caol Ilas from Gordon MacPhail.
Yeah, and this one is classic. Yeah, I mean, we all know that Caol Ila is like safe and you never it's rare that you find a Caol Ila that's like really weird or really divergent or really disappointing. And in a way, this is like I mean, this is like straight over the center fielder's head. Like it
Mhm.
is there's not a lot of surprises here, but it's very welcoming.
Well, I think it's also exactly what you want to get from an older Caol Ila, uh, which is like it's got to me the trifecta, which is the bacon and the scallop, and they're like wrapped around each other and poached in butter with a bit of
Yeah.
citrus. So it's the that's the trifecta Caol Ila effect for me.
Yeah, and they're very, very easy to spot here. To me, like the X factor in this cask is there's kind of like an icing sugary dessert layer on top of those notes.
Yeah. One to me, that's the synergy between this and the Ben Romick 2002 that I have,
Right.
which might even be from the same supply of ex-bourbon barrels because they're both first fill ex-bourbon. They're
Yeah.
both 2002. And it's one of the things I love about those bourbon cast Ben Romicks is that like plush buttercream icing sugar note that they have
Yeah.
layered on top of them.
Yeah, well, all the bourbon ex-bourbon casks at G&M, I believe they all come from Heaven Hill. So
Oh. So you're saying Pappy. We're talking Pappy cast, right, James?
I don't know. I'm assuming that to be honest, Ron, one of my coworkers is on the chat. He probably would be able to speak more to that. But
No, no, we're
I'm
just
trying to think which
joking.
Heaven Hill product has the heaviest kind of sweet buttery profile.
I don't know.
Maybe like the Bernheim stuff? I don't know.
Oh, I
Am
think you're
I
thinking
saying
like
that right?
well,
I'm getting
it would be
confused.
it would be E.H. Taylor. Oh no, you're talking Heaven Hill. So
Yeah,
yeah, you're
yeah.
talking Heaven Hill, not Buffalo Trace. So yeah, the Bernheim's probably that sweet wheat whiskey profile.
Hmm. Yeah, and Evan Williams, that's a good point.
Well, one of the things that I think is cool about this is that it's actually maintained its smoke fairly well for a 22-year-old Caol Ila. Like that you see that peat note, that smoke element really fade with time. And it has softened quite a bit, but it's still quite prominent and it's holding in there quite well for a Caol Ila in its 20s.
Yeah, in some ways on the palate, it actually tastes more youthful.
Hmm.
Like the smoke is really assertive.
Yeah. Oh, but man, that's a gorgeous palate.
Yeah,
And even the barley is still coming through after 22 years, that
yeah.
nice chewy malt. You
This
know,
is like classic G&M too. Like G&M whiskeys tend to be like, they're well put together. Everything's in the right place. There's kind of often a level of predictability to G&M casks, especially when they're older, that you do not get in other independent bottlers.
mhm.
And like this Caol Ila totally fits that bill.
But James, I think that, I mean, that goes back to the ethos of how they've run their business, which
Yeah.
is there's very few independent bottlers that come even close to their approach of putting spirit in oak, like right from the start, and purposefully choosing what types of casks to pair with which types of spirit, and then like monitoring them and nurturing them throughout their progression in the warehouse. Like there's very few companies that can do that or even have the luxury of doing that. The only one that I think that comes to mind that really comes even close is probably Signatory, who, Andrew Simonton started buying parcels of casks in the 90s and in early 2000s that he's still bottling today, 30 years later. Um, no one else has that luxury. They're buying from a stock sheet from a broker that's selling off a parcel and they don't even get to pick the casks they get. It's a number on a sheet. There's no
Yeah.
selection process.
That's wild.
And the bigger ones, they have the ability to trade off the ones that aren't any good. So,
Yeah.
but I mean, Gordon MacPhail, like they truly are completely on their own in terms of how they've built their
Yes.
business. And we haven't talked about this tonight. I really hope that they will eventually go back to filling casks again so that that side of their business continues forward, even knowing that they can keep bottling whiskey for decades, um, and not run out because no one else really has the foresight or is willing to put their money down to do that type of business over that
Yeah.
period of time.
Yeah, I would be willing to bet that, maybe they're not filling like 100 makes like in their heyday, but that
Hmm.
maybe at some point, they start maybe, I don't know, refilling, like going back to filling spay malts or,
Yeah.
Caol Ilas and Morlocks. Like, who knows, right? Who
Well,
knows where the whiskey business is headed? But Andrew, do
well,
you remember that tasting where we had Richard and Stuart both on the call? It was like 2 in the morning their time, and they were both on the call. Do you remember that
yeah,
tasting? I know that's
I
like 3
do.
years ago now. But one of the questions that you had was like, or someone asked it in the chat at the time, like, what happens to the casts that like don't measure up high enough? And like he basically said, like, there's actually very few casts that like don't score very high because of their wood program and their storage program.
Yeah, and the fact that they're actively monitoring them and
Yeah. And he
they
always said like the
know.
ones that aren't interesting, just let them like age past like 40. Like
Yeah,
he's that's what he said. He's like, yeah, we'll just wait for those to like get 40 years old
yeah,
and then they come around.
yeah.
Like what?
Again, what other business? I mean, I think the Grants are trying to pretend with House of Hazelwood that they can also do this, but it's not the same,
No,
and it's not anywhere near that level of attention or detail.
no.
All right,
Speed round.
we're gonna do the speed rounds, and Doug has kindly agreed. I just have to find the thing here. Doug has kindly agreed to join the speed round as our second palette, accepting that mine is little better than useless right now. So, Doug, there you go. You should be able to join us. Welcome.
Thank you very much, sir. I mean, I don't agree with Evan when he says you have one of the worst palates around. This is one of the many reasons why I think Evan is right up there with Spayburn, but that's a conversation for a different time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
as history's
Allegedly, Evan
greatest
says he
monster.
likes bourbon just as a response to this exact scenario.
Yeah,
Like it's his out clause.
yeah.
Ugh,
Everyone needs a safe space, guys. So,
it's okay. No judgment.
all right. Glentauchers 2006. You guys talk. I'm gonna just roll them
Yeah, for
through.
sure. So what I noticed is the fruit is gone more into that like jube kind of character, and it's
Mhm.
it's gotten a little bit sweeter and a little bit softer. The alcohol actually definitely like just a little bit of alcohol blowing off from the glass in the last hour. I think it's better.
Yeah, it seems like those raspberries and sort of like really fresh fruit has come through in that sort of like jujube form. And
Mhm.
especially comparatively to some of those big sherry casks that we just had, the
Yeah.
sweetness really shines through.
Yeah, no, this tastes like the orange and red jubes in like the bowl at my grandma's house.
Amazing. And how long have those been sitting out for, James? Are they
I
hard?
assume she bought them at the grocery store at like IGA in like 1984.
Those that that brings back memories to me of like gas station jelly beans. Back
Yeah.
when you could go in and get a handful of jelly beans for a quarter in a gas station. So, and you kind of had to suck on them before you could bite into them or you'd break your teeth.
I'm getting a note in the Glenburgie. I'm moving on to the second one that is kind of unexpected. I'm getting a little bit of like almost like craft cola, like a little bit of a
Mm,
gingery kind of like syrup character that is kind of poking its head out. Or like cream soda, like when you get those like Henry Weinhard's cream sodas in the US.
yeah.
There's almost like a sour cream note to it, like in a good sense, where there's a little bit of that sort of like almost citrusy sour note on the back of your palate a little bit that generally goes with Glenburgie and just eventually turns into these amazing tropical fruits, and it feels like a
Yeah.
interesting spot.
Yeah, you can tell it's like it's not quite there, but in this particular bottle, it all works together really well. But yeah, that
Hmm.
freshness is interesting, which yeah, that's another character I associate with Tomatin like that, like almost like acid on the finish, it feels like.
Hmm. Yeah, well, I think this is the one where I had my tasting note had lemon sherbet and orange creamsicle
Hmm.
were big notes for me on it, but
Yeah, that's
delicious.
a fun bottle.
Okay. Bladnoch, 88. Great year.
I mean,
Almost as good
nothing
as
about this
78.
bottle screams speed round to me.
Yeah.
No, you can take your time with this one if you want.
No, I mean, when like every once in a while you just kind of like nose a whiskey, but you realize like I haven't actually sipped it yet and I've been smelling it for like way
Hmm.
too long. I mean, this is that whiskey, right?
I mean, this is the mark of any great whiskey, right? Is it spurs on a conversation just on the nose alone for quite some time. Um, I still think this is one of the best whiskeys that I might have had in my life, and I've had one or two decent ones over the years, so it's certainly high praise.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The
there's a tasting note you see in wine occasionally pops up called kaleidoscopic. Like that's I can I'm gonna pull that one out for this one.
Brian Childs, who used to work for me, would throw out notes like that every once in a while, but then you'd never really be sure what he was talking about.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I mean it's stunning. The funny thing is, James, we were talking about this before we started the tasting. Had I done the lineup, now I think Evan did a good job with the lineup. I think it all worked the way we tasted everything, but I would have put this first. I would have actually made this the first whiskey in the whole lineup
Yeah.
because
I,
it's
I'm
just,
I'm okay with where it is.
yeah, but it's so delicate and so elegant. And I think, both the Glentauchers and Glenburgie are a little rough and ready compared to this. Like
Mm.
they're not rough spirit wise, but they're full of like big, bold flavor. Whereas this is much more subtle, much more elegant, much
That's
more
definitely true. What
layered.
I will say is that there's a really interesting progression that you can almost like track how, an American oak aged whiskey matures from its teens to its 30s. Like
Hmm.
that progression is very clear throughout these three whiskeys.
But we're assuming this is an American oak hoggy, I guess,
Right,
is
which we don't know,
which we don't know. But it
but it has the hallmarks
probably
of that,
is.
doesn't it?
Yeah, it's probably an American oak sherry hockey.
Yeah.
Yeah. Great. It's a great cask. Like that's a top five KWM cask for sure. So
Well, I can't wait
You
for
like this more than the Walters 44? If we're gonna start like chiseling Mount Rushmore out here,
yeah, well, I mean I think the Glendronach 72 is pretty firmly in there. I don't think that one can get punted out. Ooh, yeah. I mean, it's going to be hard to make room in that top five, but top 10 for sure. Because I
yeah,
mean, Glendronach, that Glendronach 78, 72, there was the Glenglassaugh 78 that was lovely. Then the Benriach
I always think those
1983.
those 70s Ben Ricks that you bottled, those were just insane.
Yeah. So yeah, it is a tough, but yeah, top 10 for sure.
Yeah,
sign me up.
Suzanne and Phil, who are cozily settled around a lovely fire right now,
Mm.
um, are referring to your, I think, what was it, the 93? Um,
Oh, Glendronach, the 93 20-year-old?
no, the 93 30-year-old Glenfarclas.
Oh, the 92,
Or
the family
92, thank you.
cast,
Yeah,
the
that was for your
30th
25th
anniversary.
anniversary, right? Or
Yeah.
30th anniversary?
So, I mean, I think in the pantheon of things that we get like a couple years at a time, like that Glenn Farkless 92 family cast, like the Walter's Choice, like this Bladnoch, like they're the kind of things we get only once every year or two out of the 12 to 15 casts we do. Then there's just one that just completely stands out. So, yeah,
Yeah.
that 92 is pretty spectacular as well.
Okay.
Uh, Miltonduff, anyone?
Yeah.
Well, I immediately go to the fact that you and I always spar over the fact that I'm more of a Berkey man and you're more of a Duff man.
I am more of a Duff man. Yeah.
I feel like at some point there's going to be some sort of epic battle between
Yeah.
Berkey and Duff, but
I just wish I had more of those like 30, like 29 to 30-year-old Scotch Malt Whiskey Society refill bourbon Milton Duffs, because those were absolutely spectacular.
Yeah. This is fun. I mean, I think in this lineup, it's kind of obvious that some of these whiskeys have some like kind of divergent flavor profiles that are what make them fun to drink and taste in this
Hmm.
setting. Like this Milton Duff is a little safe, right?
Yeah.
Like this isn't an adventure whiskey. This isn't like, oh, hey, there's these 10 new flavors that are kind of weird and wacky.
Hmm.
It's there's a lot of familiar flavors, there's a lot of familiar characteristics. I mean, it's very solid.
This
You know, it's got
reminds
a
me.
nice nose, nice palate, nice finish. It just there's not a lot of like there's nothing crazy about it.
You guys were talking earlier tonight about the Kleinlich 13-year-old. In
Yeah.
some ways, this reminds me of that
Yeah.
Klein, where it's
Yeah,
just
which was also like that, right? I mean, I think we all wanted that Kleinlich to be like, "Oh, it's Kleinlich. Oh my gosh." And that was like a delicious whiskey that had everything in the right place, but like there was nothing about it that you were like, "Oh wow, remember that Kleinlich? It had this weird thing." It just was a really
It,
good dram.
it had a touch of what you want Kleinlich to be, but the problem is Kleinlich and sherry.
Hmm.
The sherry's gonna crowd out the Kleinlich. I mean,
No.
the things that make Kleinlich interesting and exciting are so delicate that, you can't put like heavy cask influence on it or you're just gonna lose it.
Yeah.
So
So that's the
even
difference here. I feel like the Miltonduff spirit is like it's definitely showing. Like if you were trying to
yeah.
explain to someone what Miltonduff is and
Mhm.
explain descending line arms and all those types of things, like this kind of tells that story a little bit.
mm,
Or as a quote unquote Glendronach brand ambassador once said in a tasting, a lay pipe. I don't think he'd ever been to a distillery before, but he was a brand ambassador. So
So,
I digress.
Andrew, I wish, we just had Whiskey Global in Vancouver, and it's always a bit of a stark contrast because in Victoria, of course, you kind of have all the nerds that come out and hang out there, and um,
Yeah.
there was some reps that clearly had been given a sheet. In fact, I saw this at three different booths when I was walking around, given a sheet with like the cheat sheet of like what to tell people,
Yeah.
and I'm not going to say who it was, but like they were quizzing each other on what the talking points are. And I was like, in my mind, I'm like, can I just stop and record this?
Yeah.
Or is that going to offend someone?
Well, we recently lost our Suntory rep, who was incredible. Like lovely girl, hardworking,
Yeah.
really conscientious, but she didn't give a shit about whiskey.
Can
And
you just deal directly with Qtrin going
no,
forward? You should
I
ask.
wish. Yeah,
Think
I
of
mean,
what
no,
she
but
could
she
do
was
for
good.
you.
Like to be honest, compared to what I had before, she was great. But I think what we forget, like, and I mean, I run into this when I would take customers on tours of distilleries. And like, they would start quizzing the stillman while the tours moved off to the other side. They'd start asking them questions and like, what's your favorite whiskey? And oh, do you remember that like Lagavulin from whatever vintage it was? And the guy's like, no, I just drink lager. And then it like blows their mind because they don't realize that for a lot of these people, that's just their job.
It's just their
And it's
job.
the
In
same
fact,
for
there's a lot
them.
of brand ambassadors, even in our market, that fall in that category.
Well, James, how often do they just hire a bartender and then like they're like, well, if they can
Yeah.
tend bar, they can be a
Well,
Scotch expert.
look, I've got to be humble about this too because there's a lot of bartenders that don't love whiskey that are working as salespeople and brand ambassadors in our market that are selling more whiskey than me. So,
Hmm.
you know what? All the power
Yeah.
to them.
But James, you're gonna still be the Ben Romick of whiskey salespeople.
I think that's a compliment, but I'm not
Yeah,
sure.
it is a compliment. It was 100% a compliment. All right. Anything more to say about Milton Duff, or
Oh no, I'm already on the Balblair.
we're on to Balblair. All right, Balblair, gentlemen.
Yeah.
I mean, this is another just absolutely spectacular whiskey.
Yeah, I still get that kind of like slightly bitter, pithy character, which is always like stuck out in this whiskey to me.
Mhm.
But it, to me, it kind of adds to the intrigue, and there's just like such a unique range of kind of tropical character on the back end that it's
Mhm.
just like different.
Mm.
Yeah.
I almost get a tiramisu like note in there,
Yeah.
with a little bit of like
Yeah.
powdered cocoa, some cream, just like a hint of liqueur in the background. Some really
I'm getting
beautiful.
a little bit more like kind of burnt sugar, like maple syrupy character than I did the first time around.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Yeah. Very tangy citrus tones for the gentleman with no palate tonight. Glentauchers 2000.
Ooh, that's a big whiskey.
See, this to me is more tiramisu. It's that dark
Oh
chocolate
yeah.
shavings.
I was gonna say, don't you want to just like take a fork and like just dig into a cake that tastes exactly like this?
Well, this, James, we talked about this. Like this is the thick, dumpy, heavy sherry, but like good. It's still good, but
Yeah.
it's really, really thick.
This
Well,
is
I think I told you that when I sent you the cast samples for this, I specifically put this in as like kind of the ringer that I knew you wouldn't pick. And
Yeah.
then I got the email and I was like, oh,
But it's
I
the
was like,
people's
well,
whiskey, James.
hmm?
It's the people's whiskey. We can't always pick whiskeys for ourselves. We have to pick whiskeys
Right.
for the people.
What, you don't just buy for your own palate? I thought that's what every store owner and wine buyer and whiskey buyer does.
No. My staff get mad at me at times because they're like, I don't like this. I don't think it's great. I'm like, yeah, but people are gonna like it. And they're like, but I don't like it. It's like, well, that's not the point. Like
I
the
think I
point is to
had
make
someone too that
money.
was saying that they were looking for like a really heavy sherry bomb whiskey, and I was like, "Oh, okay. Well, when Andrew coughs that one up, I'll like pass them. I'll get another sample of that and pass it to that person." And it's like, "Nope, bye."
Yeah. Yeah. Doug, any more thoughts?
I was just going to say this is more like a German chocolate cake for me as
Mm.
opposed
Ooh,
to tiramisu. There's
a
just some,
little
Ganache.
a little Black Forest, perhaps.
yeah, I don't, yeah, there's something decadent and delicious regardless.
All right.
Yeah, it
Tremendous.
still tastes like 2005 Pomerol to me too. It's just
All
like
right.
chewy oak.
Caol Ila time.
I mean, I think I've said this before, so excuse me if
Oh
you
man.
like this is to me this is what like a modern Port Ellen would be making if it was sort
Hmm.
of around in it, where again Lagavulin, Port Ellen, and Caol Ila are all sisters, all have the same sort of specs, but like this is just for, in my humble opinion now, the best of the three, not having tried too much modern Port Ellen.
Well, we don't always get a lot of Caol Ilas that have this much wood effect, and it's amazing how it just morphs to the cask that it's in.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm just getting the poll here ready, guys. Feel free to
Hmm.
Oh yeah.
wax on about that.
Well, I
Yeah, I
don't know
mean, I
if I,
don't have anything like revelatory to say about this Caol Ila. I mean, it's just delicious Caol Ila that checks a whole heck of a lot of boxes.
you know, it's literally one of the most consistent, if not the most consistent distillate in Scotland, in my humble opinion.
Yeah, still.
Which
Well,
is,
just
is
think how many casks of Caol Ila are still remaining in Gordon MacPhail's warehouses? Because I know it's one of their like heaviest fills. Like they probably still have like
Well,
maybe even thousands of casks of Caol Ila still.
well, and James, and as good as this is, and I love this whiskey, and I'm gonna undersell it right now. If you recall, in the fall, we did a tasting for this and the Ben Romac, or maybe it was in the spring. Either way, it was last year sometime. And I was like, well, we should put that new 98 Caol Ila in this lineup. And you're like, are you sure? But don't you want your Caol Ila to be the star? I was like, oh, it'll be fine. Like that, everyone's going to want to try that other
Yeah, the
98. And
98.
the price on this one's way better. And so we did the tasting that night. I'd never had it before. And then that 98 Caol Ila was like a 9.5 out of 10.
Yeah.
Like this is a
That
nine, but
thing
that
is
was a
crazy.
9.5.
Yeah, that's one of the rare whiskeys that I almost would be like think is almost like too much flavor for some people. Like it's just a lot going on.
you
But it
definitely
was
have your palate to get to that point of the evening to truly appreciate it, it feels
Yeah,
like.
totally. Yeah, I was gonna say you have to like get to the right frame of mind. Yeah,
But that was like to me, you were probably right. We probably should not have put that whiskey in that lineup.
yeah.
So like this is one of the best Caol Ilas I had last year, but it was not the best Caol Ila I had last year. Um, I have to admit that. So anyway, I'm gonna fire up the poll. Doug, if you'd like the privilege of voting, I think I have to un-co-host you.
That's fine.
All
It's
right. Thank you for your service to the cause tonight. So, where we do remove co-host permission. There you go. He gets to vote. All right, I'm going to launch the poll. There's a possibly controversial third question there, courtesy of yours truly.
Oh,
I'll,
not Evan.
well, Evan didn't provide a cheeky third question tonight. So anyway, don't don't take too much
No, I'm not
offense.
saying anything.
Uh, Well, while you're browsing that, I'll quickly go through upcoming tastings because James and I have another one to plug. We've got the virtual outturn tasting. I mean, at this point, if you're not in Calgary, you probably can't get samples before tomorrow night, but there are still kits left for the February outturn. There's kits left for the undisclosed Orkney tasting next Tuesday, which has got 3 signatory mystery Orkney malts, an 80 Rattray, and then 3 decadent drams Orkney malts, including Igor's latest cask, We've got a wine festival coming up if you're into that. Whiskey and chocolate, champagne and bubbles, a smorgasbord of signatory whiskeys that's coming up in the not too distant future. I'm just going to skim through some of this. The Daft Mill launch, we're probably going to add some more kits to that because that's basically sold out. Berry Brothers Lost and Found tasting with a Chichibu that's sold out. It looks like a bizarre wine cask. I've tried it. It is actually not bad. It shocked me. I was expecting it to be dreadful, and it was not. The Lassie's Only Whiskey Festival in support of the Brenda Strafford Foundation. That is coming up on March 5th in time with International Women's Day. Gentlemen, you are not welcome. We've got the Single Cask Nation cask launch with Josh Hatton from Single Cask Nation. So that's coming up shortly. And then Redbreast, lots of Redbreast. And the one I'm looking for, where is it here? The Cairn. James, the Cairn tasting is pretty exciting. There's only 2 spots left. We're going to add some. We can't put it on the tasting site, but the 7th bottle is coming, and it's going to be a real
Very
fun
clandestine
surprise.
sourcing.
Yeah, we're working hard, but like trust us, you're going to want to take part. And for those of you who are wondering, is it worth $175 for a sample of the 57-year-old? I would say yes. But I mean, it's still a reasonably priced whiskey for that age, but I recognize $175 is a lot of money for people. So no judgment there on that. But that tasting is going to be awesome.
I just bought a Daft Milk kit. I didn't even know that tasting was happening.
Yeah, it's happening. We're gonna have to definitely do more now. All right, to the poll. Where are we at here? It looks like everyone's voted, and we seem to have lost one person. They might have been offended by the third question. It's possible. Anyway, for top whiskey tonight, the votes are in, and the Bladnoch sails to the front, and then it's a tie between the Balblair and the Caol Ila for first favorite. I'll be honest, I'm not surprised the Miltonduff didn't get a vote, but I'm surprised the Glentauchers got a vote over the Miltonduff. That's an interesting one.
Did you
I
Uh,
vote?
love 20 of 20 answer too.
Yeah, second
Amazing.
favorite, Caol Ila, storming to the front, Milton Duff
Yeah.
and Balblair holding in there very well. So everybody gets a vote tonight, so that's great. We like to see that. Finally, on to the controversial third question. Who is history's greatest monster? And the options were Evan Spayburn and the mustache guy from the 1940s. I am happy to see that he did win history's greatest monster because
Jeez.
I mean, there was really only one right answer there.
I,
It
I
was
I always figure that
openly
you go to the what's his face, the Duke of Sutherland or whatever.
Oh, that would have been a good option too. But again, I think the mustache guy was
That's
worse.
the personal one for you, right?
Yeah, the Duke of Sutherland. But I mean, yeah, he was a dick, but the mustache guy was more than a dick. So,
Hmm.
Doug, I think you had something more to say about Evan though, or did you?
no, it was I thought we had all agreed Spayburn was history's greatest monster. I
Oh,
didn't realize you
fair,
were going in a
fair.
different direction there.
I
So
don't know. I mean, I, I'd I'd have to say it's got to be Rusk. If we're gonna pick a distillery, it's got to
Yeah.
be Rusk.
I feel like the two of you are just in a cage match where every time you get together in public, you just shit talk each other, just in this lead up to this match sometime in the future that none of us know really when it's going to happen. But
Well,
at
I'm
this
bringing like a
point,
submachine gun to that
Yeah,
tasting
well,
with
James,
my
James,
78 Ben
James,
Rennis.
James has an advantage. He is an importer. I have to work through an importer. So
I
he is at
literally
a,
went out and said, "What is the best Ben Rennis ever bottled?" And I could actually source it. I
yeah,
could just buy it.
yeah, yeah. All right. I'm gonna have to get dirty here, apparently, is
Yeah.
what I'm realizing. Well, listen, James, thank you very much. Doug, thanks for stepping in for the speed round. Thank you everyone for tuning in for the tasting tonight. I hope you enjoyed it. It was an awesome range. And it came about partly because Gordon MacPhail found a bottle of that 2006. But James, I think you also coughed up the 97, if I remember correctly. So
Yeah, it's from
yeah,
personal collection, but
yeah, there
this
you
it was a
go.
great use for it for
It,
sure.
it was a great use. So we do thank you for that and for your service. So thank you, everyone. I hope you have a great rest of your evening. There is a newsletter coming out tomorrow because you probably don't know yet that we have a sale this weekend. We have a sale this weekend. So be forewarned, and we'll see you in a tasting again soon. Okay.